Can we ask you a few questions on the front of the camera?
Yes, sir.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Just want to ask you very briefly about the UK and European banking crisis and whether do you think that we might get out of it? Even though we will, but what do you think the resolution would be afterwards?
To get out of it?
Yes.
Well, I think somebody's got to curb the bonuses that these people are being paid. They take risks with our money, don't they? And get paid large sums of money for losing it.
I used to work in banking, I don't work anymore.
Right.
I'm still amazed that the credit scoring companies got away with overrating all this junk, and nobody seems to be raising any issue about that. You know, everybody's blaming it on the government and the banks, but it was actually the credit scoring companies that completely fucked the whole thing up and represented what was basically junk by, you know, saying it was class AAA bond.
If, for example, the situation with the Bernie Madoff case, do you remember the gentleman there?
Yeah.
Do you think that it might happen again? And do you think there might be another Northern Rock situation again?
I think it's possible. I think it's possible. I don't think that anything is regulated properly. I think things need to be regulated properly so that these things don't happen, and I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think any of them are in control of the financial situation. Don't care if it's the government, anybody. I don't think they're in control of the situation. I think the bankers are in control of the situation.
I just have one feeling: fear, because of what happened over the last few days. You know, with Greece, Spain, Portugal. All these countries have been downgraded by S&P.
Now, do you think that the £1 coin,
£1.
or
Yeah.
do you think that that we have to keep it as £1 coin?
Yeah, I think so.
Yes.
Yeah.
In Japan and in Taiwan,
Yeah.
How much is it worth over there roughly?
How much? You mean the?
Yeah. If I was to buy, for example,
Yeah. For example, this camera
or jacket or
jacket. I think here it's more expensive.
Really?
Yeah. Of course. Yeah, here it's more expensive.
People's pensions are affected. My mother-in-law's income's down by a third. It's not a good thing. And I don't know if the politicians could have done much to prevent it, but hopefully they've got us on the right track now.
I think it will take years and years to recover, but we'll recover eventually, I assume. What we do after we get out with it? Have a more responsible government, I hope.
I think the trouble is the West has been living beyond its means for too long now, and people expect things that certainly this country and the rest of the Western world can't really sustain. Especially with, I've got a business and we're competing with China. The Chinese are just dumping stuff into the West, and the governments have done nothing to stop it, really. They've almost encouraged it because it kept inflation low, and they were quite happy for that. The whole thing is just a disaster as far as I can see. We allow the Chinese to get away with things that are even worse than the Japanese did in the 60s. The Japanese did it in the 60s, but the Chinese have taken it to another level now, in my view. And India as well. I think the West has got massive problems. I think the politicians really don't know how to get out of it, I think, is the real answer. Well, you have to get rid of socialism as we've still got. Everything's bureaucratic, there's more and more legislation.
Banks have just done what everybody else has done on a greater scale. They've taken advantage of the people that entrusted their money to them and their savings.
I imagine that the financial regulators in this country, in Europe and worldwide are much wiser to the antics of such people as Madoff.
The only way to trust the bankers is for them to be honest with what they're spending the money on, to keep a detailed account of what they need to spend the money on, why they're spending the money on, and who they're giving the money to, basically. So that's the only way to stop that from happening over here, is for them to be very honest with everybody's money.
I think people should be less dependent on the banks and maybe less mortgages, trying to just do not consume that much. But
it's really difficult to tell what's going to happen. Seeing what's happening with Greece, who knows?
Do you think we'll get out of it, or actually when we get out of it, what do you think we should do to keep it on an even keel this time?
Well, I think the main thing that we'd be looking to do in the future to stop us getting in the same situation again would probably be to, during a period of economic growth that we had maybe a few years back, 2005, that kind of time, to actually not make sure that we're actually taking more tax receipts than we're spending, and building up a surplus to use in the bad times that we're experiencing now. So I think that's the major mistake of the Labour government. If they've made one kind of clear mistake for me, it's been kind of spending their way through the good years when in fact they should have been saving.
You could see capital moving, especially from Eastern Europe, moving it probably into London, into New York, using the stock exchange, and there was no kind of regulation at all on it. Because people could then, I mean, if you look at the breakup of the Soviet Union, you had massive amounts of money, for example, like Kazakhstan or Ukraine. They used to be all part of the Soviet bloc, and then they became independent states with their own financial resources, and most of them have got oil. And I think what we've found in the last 15, well, certainly in the last 2 years, that's become a cropper, because there's only so much money. I'm not a monetarist, but in the end, there's only so much money that goes round. Yeah. And as a moment, we're having a realignment of that.
The guy who squandered I think it was 80 billion or 75 billion dollars.
Somebody like Madoff. Well, he had a very nice film. Well, his system was very nice and difficult to track. So if somebody is a bit wiser and doing the same things, I don't see how they could spot him, really.
It seems like there's a lot of thoughts and aspirations going on with this banking crisis. I still haven't really got that much on what's going on, but I can assure you that the few people that we spoke to, it seems like they have a fairly good intake on what's going on. For example, you had a couple of UK and foreign, especially the foreign people that we spoke to, who actually did turn around and start not necessarily blaming other countries, but it sounded a little bit like that. Anyway, can we ever get out of this banking crisis? You know what? I think we can. All it needs is a few more people to speak about it, to talk about it, to be interested and get angry and just try to find out exactly what's going on.